You're listening to Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives. I'm your hostess, Celeste A. Frazier. Thanks for tuning in. Today's episode is going to be sweet. My guest today is Reverend Michelle E. Jordan, and we're going to be talking about gratitude. Michelle is a powerful, intuitive singer, vocal teacher. She supports the children and she supports many communities. It's going to be a beautiful time. Stay tuned. Hey, Mystic Magic podcasters. We are going to have a wonderfully gentle and loving time today with my friend Reverend Queen Michelle Jordan. Reverend Michelle E. Jordan brings 30 years of experience providing musical inspiration for all. She's been teaching in the schools in the Bay Area, in Berkeley and Oakland, and including private schools and public schools. And she has been the choir director at St. Columba Catholic Church. She's been at St. Joseph the Worker. In the 90s, she was a recipient of the California Arts Council grant for vocal music in schools. And she has done so much in the theater. She's been traveling. She's been to Accra, Ghana. She was the choir director at the East Bay Church of Religious Science. She was working with wonderful people like Jacqueline Butler Jackie Hairston, and her vocal teacher led her to become an artist at many of the Centers for Spiritual Living in the Bay Area, where she worked with some other wonderful folks in the movement and beyond. And Centers for Spiritual Living honored her with an Arts Award in 2001. Now, while she was serving at East Bay, she received her practitioner license, and then her musical ministry revealed itself to her, and she was doing live productions and still is doing live productions in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. She did Marie and Rosetta, Blues in the Night with Maurice Hines and Frida Payne. She did Bricktop at the Lorraine Hansberry Theater, Crowns, Ain't Nothing But the Blues, Ain't Misbehaving, Gospel at Colonus, Sweet and Hot, Shaking the Mess Out of Misery, Dreamgirls, you name it. She's done all the shows that we love. And she won a Critics Circle Award for her portrayal of Effie. What I love about doing these podcasts with my friends is that I learn wonderful facts about them. I'm not at all surprised that they're genius, and that's certainly true for Reverend Michelle. She's been a regular guest artist at the Center for Spiritual Living in San Jose, and she accepted the position of Minister of Music as she has herself become a minister, having gone through ministerial school and completed her studies in 2016. And so she is transforming in music, and she transforms us by her music. So I am so pleased to welcome my friend, Reverend Michelle Jordan. Welcome, Michelle.
Hey, Reverend Celeste. Thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure. Kind of got misty just even hearing.
Well, I know sometimes you get misty. And I know that, sometimes I feel your energy when you're singing and you just get so moved by yourself. It's like, not only are you moving us, but something's happening in you. To explain to us what's going on when that happens.
I think that that's when I'm most happy. That connection, that vulnerable space to have a lyric reveal itself with the foundation being music, or the piano supporting the melody and the thought behind the word.
So the music is coming alive in you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a conversation, a relationship, if you will, that's happening between the pianist and the way that he or she places the hands on the keys, and then the relationship between how they interpret the song, and then and then the dance that happens within me, and I'm blessed to be able to express that and share it.
That sounds like gratitude to me.
I've kind of been dancing that place that I have so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
That the gift of song has opened many doors, and at this age, 64, realizing that I haven't put any energy in anything else. So it's, learning how to.
Well, when you excel in one thing, there's no sense in wasting your time doing other things, right?
Well, yes, you're being generous, but yes, it's true.
Well, I'm going to say that it's gratitude that moves you so much because that connection is so real. And since Ernest Holmes said gratitude is one of the chief graces of human existence, and some aspects of life create some challenges to seeing the grace and embodying the gratitude. So what do you do to find gratitude in the midst of any kind of experience of life, no matter how it may feel?
I was, as I said before, I've been blessed to be the musical inspiration at a variety of functions within this organization, Centers for Spiritual Living San Jose, Centers for Spiritual Living overall. And having been in San Jose for the past, I realized that I saw Reverend Deborah Johnson speak at a graduation. And one of the things that she impressed upon the graduates at the time was the importance of being in gratitude, starting your day with gratitude. And I feel like that has been a foundation upon which I built my journey, to remember that I have much to be grateful for, that I'm abundant, taken care of, my earth-based needs are met, and to constantly remind myself, because it's a breath by breath reminder, because, I can put my Holy Ghost down and forget.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a dance.
So in that dance, what's your relationship between gratitude and racial healing, for example?
Well, that too is a breath by breath reminder, especially during this time that we're currently, this rebirthing that is presenting itself. I've joked with some of my colleagues and friends that I had asked to the universe for some time off to just be with myself, not realizing I was going to have the whole world join me in this rebirthing, this new way of learning how to love one another, beginning with the inside work.
Yes, yes.
So as it relates to racial healing, it's a constant daily cleansing of reminding myself that I have a clean slate and that each person that crosses my path.
Well, let's just take, for example, Ahmaud Arbery. Let's just make it real.
Well, yes, that was a thought.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, here's an opportunity, yes, to do some forgiveness work, but yes, to feel the presence within us to say, what is mine to do about this? So yeah, I called the governor's office. Yeah, I called the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Yeah, I called the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the Georgia office. And so, you just let them know, because people need to be accountable, and that's God too. And I'm grateful that I have a voice and the insight and the courage and the will to just do that. And that doesn't mean I need to go out and hurt anybody because somebody else was hurt and because it hurt me. But, I'm grateful for my voice, as I know you're grateful for your voice. Right?
It brings up a lot, being the auntie of a young man that was killed in Oakland in 2014, my sister's son, Terrence McCrary, who is known in the skating world as T-Mac, was shot and killed. And along with two other young men from Berkeley schools that happened to be at a party. And so, excuse me, the experience of having to live through the loss. And he wasn't killed by police. He wasn't we don't know who shot the gun. However, it brought that back up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Aubrey's murder
Mm-hmm.
brought up how I have avoided allowing myself to have a full healing around, because I don't think it ever goes away. When I talk to my sister and how she has made her voice heard by going to the Supreme Court and speaking with other women that have lost their sons to gun violence. And it's a sad commentary, but as it relates to race relations and being grateful for my voice and being grateful to be asked to even acknowledge that I'm holding some trauma around it, and it being a daily practice to forgive and to remember that I have a voice to speak out.
Yeah. So here's a right now moment of gratitude, right?
Exactly.
So what's your relationship between gratitude and relationships?
Meaning just like family relationships or
Whatever.
Well, I believe too, like that foundation of gratitude dances through everything.
Yes. Yes.
It is the foundation upon which I stand. And I confess too that those relationships with siblings, my sisters, for instance, is a constant work in progress. Mm-hmm. Because we're very different, and at the same time connected by blood. The way that we move through the world is different in our approach.
And what about our relationships with people that are not in our families, that maybe even be strangers? For me, like I'm like very grateful for the people who are doing the essential work, and it makes me be a little bit more compassionate with them. There's just different ways that we can notice how it comes up for us, and we may not even identify it as gratitude, but just appreciation.
Well, when I have to say that what comes up for me as you ask that question is thinking about the community that I serve, which is a predominantly white community. And although I know that I'm loved in that community, I can't help but step into some of the old stereotypes that America lives with. I've called myself the help.
Oh.
I have called myself bucking and shining.
Mm.
And I have to remind myself the legacy from which I come, that my grandfather was an Episcopalian minister from Africa who was a stowaway on a ship that took him to England. And I have to remember that my daughter on her 40th birthday traveled to Accra, Ghana, so she could see her legacy and found her name on as a merchant sign with the spelling of her name, because it was a big deal growing up with my mother's spelling of Lamtray. We could never find it because it's spelled Lamittsoi. And so as I think about the relationships that I take for granted, like even with this pandemic that we're in, I realized that I had taken Mother Earth for granted. I had taken gatherings, people coming together to be a witness to the music that I'm blessed to bring. I'd taken that for granted. I'd taken the legacy of my parents for granted. And so I realized, since I've had this 8 weeks to be still, mm-hmm. that I have a rich legacy.
Yes.
And that the love that is mine, and I can't do nothing about that other than learn how to embrace and allow it to express and to grow, so that the grace of God, the grace of life, is revealed by my mere presence.
Yes. Now, what about the gratitude you may have for some of the characters you've played? You did a magnificent job in the show that I saw you in at Theater Works. I mean, sometimes what I know about acting is that there becomes a way of blending, and that there's something that the character lends to our lives just as we are borrowing from theirs.
Well, I'm thankful that you did make that trek down that to Palo Alto from Oakland. And I have to say that in my exploration of Sister Rosetta Tharpe, I felt like she and I are doing the same thing. She during the 30s and 40s, and me now in 2020. And remembering that her whole foundation was to bring joy to those that saved up their pennies and nickels and dimes, who would walk miles to come and see her. And in addition to serving the white community as well, so that she could make that sacrifice to go and be with those that, Black folks, on that, what do they call it? The Chitlin Circuit.
Yes.
And so I felt a real connection, a deep connection to Sister Rosetta Tharpe. And there are others that I've had opportunity to play too. Effie was a big one as well. Actually, when I auditioned for that piece, Dreamgirls, I thought I was Dina. Mm-hmm. Because, I was Dina. And when I finally had the opportunity to do the callback and sing I Am Changing, I said, oh, I get it.
Somebody spotted your soul.
Yes, the director, Tony Haney. Yes, he did. And I was blessed to be able to do that role and have the opportunity to work with some of the folks that were in the movie, actually. So my path has been, I'm grateful for the path, my journey has taken. And I realized that the ministry is where I'm supposed to be.
And God didn't ask you just to sing for one group of people. God asked you to sing. And what I noticed about your sign off on your emails is that it says, I'm not happy because I sing. That's from His Eye is on the Sparrow, right? But you
actually, that's a quote.
Yeah, but you say, I'm happy because I sing.
Yes, I don't sing because I'm happy because I sing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that quote from On My Journey. Mm-hmm. I believe it's Tom Paxton who wrote that quote. And it's just a reminder for me, because I am blessed to be able to bring music, and it has kept me kind of in a cocoon, protected me from those places where stones and arrows, if you will, or energy that's not for me. It has protected my soul.
So do you get lost in the song? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know that I get lost in the song. I want to say that I am anchored in the song, that it is the foundation. It is such a foundation for me that it protects me from hearing things that may be untoward, whacking my spirit in a way that hinders me from moving.
Okay.
It's the music and the opportunity to know, okay, I got a Sunday ticket ready for I spend that week focusing on that. And that's where my gratitude comes in, because I can, look, this song is healing me right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So rather than being paralyzed by the illusions, you're liberated by the song.
Exactly, because the illusions can if I let myself get deep in the Aubrey situation, or number 45, or, there are a variety of ways that I could get stuck. Mm-hmm. Thank God for the music, because then I can't stay, because there's a soul that needs that song for whatever that moment is. And even if it's mine,
yes,
and I'm here that's my job, to be the healer.
Yes.
I was on Facebook, and this sister that I had the opportunity to sing with started singing this song, we are going, heaven knows how, we are going, we know within. And it just said, whoa, yeah, yeah, whoa, yeah, yeah. So I had to do some investigation about why is that song filling me up? So what is it? I found out it was from Ghana. That it was from Ghana. And the Ghana is my grandfather's first language. And I said, oh, I found myself just like walking through the house. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. And then we are going. Heaven knows why we are going. So appropriate for this time. Yeah. So appropriate to have that little melody, be that earworm for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm blessed to have those little reminders.
So I was looking at some of the video on you, and I noticed that you were speaking somewhere, and you were referring to something called the Q Project that you had learned about in your studies. What's the relationship, do you think, between gratitude and the Q Project? And please explain the process so that we are understanding. There's challenges as well that come along in the path to gratitude.
So the Q Project was written by a minister whose name is not coming to me in this moment.
That's okay. I'll get it in the show notes.
So it was a class that I took during ministerial studies where you look at nothing and no one is against you. And in the exploration, you look at the various triggers that hinder, support that idea. For me, it was a deep introspection and looking at the triggers of going from a predominantly African-American community and asking for a Sunday as a song and leader in San Jose, and that opening up to taking on the position as musical director for a community where my first experience at Center for Spiritual Living San Jose was Halloween in 1998. And everybody dressed up for Halloween, and one of the characters was Aunt Jemima.
Oh.
There was a woman there in blackface with a spatula. Mm. Now I was triggered by that choice for a Halloween costume. And then 15 years later, my parents had died, and I had a house payment that was big. And so I asked Dr. David, what would be would he consider me singing once a month in San Jose? Well, I was still at East Bay. So the Q Project during ministerial school had me look at various phases of my experience, looking at the conflicts that I felt within myself as an African-American woman, same gender loving, in a community where I thought everybody was privileged and well off, only to find out that some of the upset that I was projecting was within me. Mm-hmm. And looking deeper at the 400 years that African Americans have been on this continent, the journey that we experience, and really allowing that to be present, not negating it, celebrating it through song, through ministry, through recognizing that that community wants that freedom, celebrates, and sometimes knows more about me than me. And then also recognizing that they also have a deep fear of embracing the privilege, taking ownership and acknowledging that they do have privilege without going to a place of where my father would say they start cursing at you. Mm-hmm. So the Q Project provides three phases for which you look at the triggers, how you manage the triggers, how you then implement and embrace the triggers and transform them so that you can still be fully self-expressed in the midst of the illusion that you spoke of earlier.
Right. So it's really taking your power back, isn't it?
Taking ownership.
Yes.
Ownership for, yes, I notice that there are these inequities.
Yeah.
And yes, I stand on a rich foundation of shoulders and you don't have any power over me unless I give it to you.
Yes, because we're in a sense sometimes traumatizing ourselves. Now, you mentioned same gender loving. We'll have to have you back to have that whole conversation. But, because when I was going through my spiritual transformation, when I was at Agape, I was able to heal the internalized racism, the internalized sexism, the internalized homophobia that we take on after having repeated patterns of this influence and these seeming attacks that we've been traumatized by, and we think it's part of who we are, but it's not. It's just an opportunity for us to awaken to more love.
And again, too, that's that place where the energy is familiar. And then you have to transform that familiarity into the new, to the grace. You have to introduce that vibration to the grace.
So on that note, what would you say is your relationship between gratitude and change? Because some things bring us change that we weren't expecting, but then we end up being grateful for them.
Well, I too think that that's another breath by breath moment for me. What I offer in this moment as I stutter to get it out there, we're in change right now.
Exactly.
And at the same time that I acknowledge this present moment, there's some resistance to, or how I say it, there's some opportunity to allow myself to grieve what has been. To acknowledge that I have some grief about what has been, the gathering, the assumption that there'll always be a group who will come.
How about that?
Yes, and now that we're at this place where that has to be reframed, repackaged, if you will, like there's this conversation at school starting back on August 10th. How do we bring children together and social distance? So the change, I have to say, I just have my pinky toe in the water right now. And I have to say that my back is to the change that's coming. I'm kind of like Sankofa, the bird. I'm looking, but I'm also, I got one eye over here.
Right.
Because I have to let go of what has been and appreciate what has been, acknowledge what has been.
Yes.
As I acknowledge where I am and welcome what's coming.
Well, we've got cleaner air, lower traffic, lower gas prices, and we have a little bit less crime, and we have some more gratitude for our first responders, our medical personnel that are in our cities and counties. I mean, there's a lot to really take inventory about, and so holding on to what was often gets us stuck. And it gets in the way of our growth. So I'm thinking, for me at least, I'm excited about the unknown as pertains to our evolution as a people. Now, that might be, airy-fairy, but I know God, and I know just as Mother Earth is giving us an opportunity to be healthier in our choices, that we can also be grateful for some of the things that we're learning through this experience and what we're discovering that we hadn't noticed, like you said.
Yeah, it reminds me of the sister circle that we're blessed to be a part of, and the coronavirus and the bedtime story 2020.
Yes.
How all the industrial buildings and all of the ways that we want stuff fast, that instant gratification. And then after we acknowledge all of those things, we realize that coming into our home, this is cocooning. There's a blessing in the cocooning.
Yes.
There's a blessing in, and then we realize that in that story, it talks about the blessing was so great that we decided to keep some of those new things, as you were speaking of, welcoming that unknown, and celebrating the unknown, and basking in the blessing that it's bringing us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So you are a good thing, and I'm so glad you said yes to coming on Mystic Magic. I so love you and appreciate you. Not only does your singing bring so much power and wonder and transparency to my soul, But you as a person have been so unconditionally loving and supportive of me. So I just want you to know I appreciate you. And thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Celeste. Much love to you. And I look forward to more opportunities to be in your orbit.
I just want you to let us know if there's anything that you want to promote, anything coming up, any kind of project. And online is not prohibited. So just let us know if there's something that you want us to know about, if there's something that you're doing personally that you want us to know about. And
well, I do want to acknowledge a group that I'm blessed to be working with. I think we're calling ourselves Music is Healing. It's with a Dr. Naz Motayer, Tom Tomasello, and Frank, his last name I'm not remembering, he's a drummer. We did one video gathering, and the whole, the foundation is that we provide music for those who are living with aphasia. And those are people that are survivors of strokes. And they're relearning how to talk, walk, sing, and music supports them in using those vocal cords. And that has brought me the biggest blessing, learning how to be in service to that community. And so currently we don't have anything planned, but once a month has been the activities. Once a month we come together. And now that we've had social distancing, we did do one Zoom event. So I will keep you posted about that because I'm excited.
Wonderful. And we'll get that in the show notes as well as the drummer's last name. And I know how healing music can be. My ministry at Agape, even before I was a practitioner, was to go to convalescent homes, children's hospitals, and hospices, and I would bring entertainers. And it was just wonderful to see it before my very eyes, the healing that was happening.
Yes, that's
so
powerful.
Thank you for doing that work.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
This is Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives. Gratitude is a state of being. Gratitude is a way of seeing what you have and what you feel. Gratitude is a way of being real. Gratitude is an attitude, a feeling, a means to begin the healing. For when you are grateful, you know that you can't reap what you sow, because what you receive is more than you've earned. What you know is more than you've learned, because there are intrinsic gifts that God built in to give us lifts, gives us smiles, and give us laughter that guide us to live happily after what we perceive to be the end, but is really just another bend on the road to eternity, another path to liberty. Gratitude is an attitude that oft brings us to tears. Gratitude is an attitude that allays some of our fears. Gratitude is an attitude that helps us to see the light. Gratitude is an attitude that helps us know our might. Gratitude is the true mirror of who we really are. Gratitude is the attitude that we shine like many a star. Gratitude is the knowing that all is well. Gratitude is the glowing that can't be felt in hell. Gratitude is the point of view that each day is new. Gratitude is the attitude with which I end my prayers. Gratitude is the attitude that tells me someone cares. Gratitude is the attitude that God is present and near. Gratitude is the attitude that there is nothing to fear. Gratitude is the attitude that everything is mine. Gratitude is the attitude that stops every whine. Gratitude is the attitude that love is very real. Gratitude is the attitude that I like to feel. Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Celeste A. Frazier, and this is Mystic Magic. We'll be back next week when our topic will be the first cause. That's going to be a solo with just me. Please see our show notes for today's episode at mysticmagic.buzzsprout.com. You can also get a lot of information. Please leave a review if you'd like. It's also a great place to find out how to see more podcasts. Feel free to subscribe. It's free. If this episode has been good for you or good to you, feel free to support the show. You can find Mystic Magic at iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and many other wonderful podcast venues. This is Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives.